Hi guys, I'm SJ and welcome to Supercars of SA. Today I have two very special cars for you guys. These cars are really close to my heart. In fact, I love these cars. I have grown up loving this car so much. This is the world's most loved hot hatch, the Golf GTI. So today I do have both of them for you. I have the Mk7 Golf GTI and the Mk7.5. So today we are going to look at the differences between the two cars. So stay tuned. Okay guys, so let's get started on the very obvious differences between the two generations. I'm going to start with the Mk7.5. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the obvious differences, the ones that are kind of we can see them pretty much. There's no hiding the fact that they have changed, and there's no denying the Mk7.5 looks a lot more beautiful. The Golf GTI keeps getting better and better generation by generation. I honestly do not know what to expect with the Mark 8 Golf. It's just going to be out of this world. I mean, I've been following the Golf GTI since the Mark 5, and there's just something about each generation that seems to bring me in always, that just lures me in as a car guy. So like I was saying, the Golf GTI has been really close to my heart. This car just gets better and better from generation to generation. The Mk7 Golf was special in its own way. It took the looks to a whole new level. The Mk7.5 just took it 10 steps above that, and they just get better and better. So let's take a look at the differences starting right in front. So first of all, the one very obvious difference you guys will see is that the lights have changed over here. The lights now, previously in the Mk7, were these sort of half squares to a certain degree. Only these LEDs would actually light up, not both of them. Now with the 7.5, what's different is that now both LEDs actually light up, with the LEDs obviously changing shape. Now we have more of a sort of just curve that goes that way like that, and also we have the indicators embedded into the LEDs. Whereas with the Mk7 Golf GTI, what was different was that the indicators were just normal bulbs. They were not part of the LED daytime running lights, and this, I find this technology really amazing. I feel like it's something extremely unique how they've managed to get the exact same LED bar to glow orange as well. But yeah, let's take a closer look at that. That is one of the most gorgeous lights I have ever seen, and I just cannot deny that the Golf GTI just keeps getting better and better generation by generation. Okay, so another thing you guys will notice is the red stripe. The signature red stripe now runs straight through into the lights as it did previously, but however now if you look really closely, the red lights go right around the LED daytime running lights, which looks really beautiful if you look at it. I mean, just look at that. These eyes look so gorgeous. Wow, would you just look at that? My goodness, this effect with the red stripe going right across the light with the daytime running light right under it really makes for such an eye-catching look. So on the Golf 7 GTI, it was a bit different. The signature red stripe of the GTI ran straight right through the lights, so they never really sort of interacted with the lights. This has changed now with the Mk7.5. Another very obvious difference is the front bumper. The front fascia of the GTI from the Mk7 to the Mk7.5 has changed quite a bit. What we can tell here is that if you guys look really closely, this part over here has remained the same. However, on the Mk7 generation, these slats were just sort of straight slats coming from the inside of the bumper, which did look pretty amazing, especially when you have the fog lamps on. So moving on to the Mk7.5, if you see, like I explained earlier, this part over here has remained fairly the same, whereas this part over here is what's really changed. It looks as if the slats are now sort of embedded into the bumper, which really makes for a very eye-catching, appealing design. The one thing you will notice in here is that the fog lamps are now missing. I believe that's an option now. I believe it was also an option on the previous gen, but however now the fog lamps are not in there. However, these do seem like they are functional vents, so there's a thumbs up for you, VW. That's great, you are not sticking to the fake vents. These vents are functional, so what these vents do is they basically funnel air going right through across, so that it improves the aerodynamics of the car, so that the air flows right out that way. Okay, so guys, sorry for the wind noise. There are quite a few trees here which do create a bit of wind, but that's good considering Cape Town's heat right now. It's kind of boiling me over here, and these trees sort of give us that lovely protection. So yeah, coming down to the side of the car, not much has really changed. The main things that have really changed, I'm not quite sure though, since this is a second-hand car, I'm not sure if this badge always was placed a little further down, because on the Mark 7.5 what has happened is they have moved this more towards the edge of the fender, which is something that I've never really noticed or taken deeply note of. Guys, let me know down in the comments below, was this always like this? Is this standard the way it is, or has the previous owner perhaps moved the badge ahead or something crazy like that? So as I was explaining earlier with the Mark 7 Golf GTI, this badge seems to have moved backwards on the fender. It does however remain, and I love this touch personally, because it does sort of tell people who don't know what this car is that it is a GTI. Moving on, so one of the main things that have changed are the wheels. I mean, these wheels were sort of a slight difference to the previous gen Mark 6 Golf GTI, and what happened was originally on that GTI the rims were a bit round, and this time they're going for more of a sort of turbine effect with a more sharper edge over here, sort of giving it that turbine effect when it is on the move. The red calipers do remain, however. That is probably something that's never ever going to change on the GTI, but these were the previous wheels. I believe these specific wheels are about 18 inches big, which is pretty large. Because the side walls are also so small, this could possibly mean that you might have a bit of a rougher ride. You do have the option of the what I believe is the adaptive chassis dampening. It's an option on this car. Not all GTIs will have that option specifically. The Mark 7.5 Golf GTI, the wheels have changed. We now have these more sharper turbine effect wheels. Let's just check what size are these wheels. These are still 18-inch wheels, and they are quite beautiful. There's no denying that. This has gone for a lot more of a sharper look, and I love the way these look, especially when the car is on the drive, which just looks really amazing. So one of the key differences on the Mark 7.5 Golf GTI are these brand new LED rear tail lights. These lights are glorious. The amount of detail that VW has gone into in these lights is just beautiful. And even if you guys just look at these dynamic turn signals, which are now standard across the range, it's just something else. It's so mesmerizing to look at something like this. Sometimes I find myself just staring at this specific car. So on the previous gen car, or the pre-facelift car, the lights did not sort of have the dynamic turn signals. These lights were more sort of aimed in terms of design for a more sort of crystal or sort of diamond look, which still did look pretty amazing. I honestly did really like the look of these lights, but the Mark 7.5 Golf GTI has definitely upped the ante. So yes, between the Golf 7 GTI and the Mark 7.5 Golf GTI, there isn't much difference for us to look at. Most of the changes are really only aesthetic and cosmetic. And I still really, to be honest, most of the changes, even though they are only cosmetic between these two, like for example, you have the lights that are now different, and most importantly, the wheels between the two. It's just, both cars are really amazing, and I would really love to own either one, and I wouldn't really say no to that one or this one specifically, because I love them both. So guys, when it does come to the engine of the Golf GTI, the Mark 7 carried the 2-liter TSI DSG. I am not really sure with regards to the power and the torque figures, but I am pretty sure the power sits at around 220 horsepower, with the performance pack giving you an added 9, I believe. And I believe this has remained the same with the Mark 7.5 Golf GTI, which also carries the 2-liter TSI DSG. This specific car also puts out around 220 horsepower, so I will confirm those figures right down over here. You will be able to see those figures once the final video does come out. So for those of you guys that are really in depth with your power figures, you will have those, and you can decide which one is better for you. Personally, I feel like they probably both will deliver the same style of power. We will be going on a drive with both cars. Okay, so when it does come to rear space in the Golf GTI, the Golf GTI is a good place to be in the back. Even though as a car guy, I'd preferably be in that driver's seat over there. I don't really like riding in the back of cars. But look, you guys, possibly whoever does buy this car is going to be a family person. I mean, you are looking for a reasonably practical car. And I mean, just look at this. This is just my driving position in general. And I mean, look at the amount of space that I really have. It's pretty good, and you can sort of bend your legs as well and just sort of relax. It's a great place to be. The Golf GTI has always sort of prided itself on being a practical car, and at the same time also being a very hot car in terms of performance, in terms of just having that fun factor, and it's just a good car in terms of all of that. And yeah, in back it's pretty good as well. So let's move on to the 7.5 and see how that is in back. So here in the Mk7.5 Golf GTI, we do see that there is a slight change, ever so slightly. For example, this specific red part over here, this is a lot more brighter. This has sort of been added along with the stitching on the previous car. The one thing I do like on this specific car is the sort of perforated color that is in between the seats. It's quite hard to come across on the camera, but if you look really closely, you can sort of see a bit of a red background beyond this, which is really a nice touch in this car. Okay, so moving on to the front, which just looks glorious as it usually does in every Golf GTI. This one is the Mk7.5 Golf GTI. So this is in the front of the Mk7 Golf GTI, which, as you can see, there's not that much difference. The main differences we will explore later is the infotainment system and the sort of analog dials over there. That is really the biggest changes between the two cars. Okay, so moving on to the front here in the Mk7.5, we don't have much changes really. We do have the same lovely aluminium style pedals. The one difference, again, like I did mention, is this extra sort of red line along with this sort of perforated touch with the red background on the seats. However, there is not that many changes. If we look at the steering also, it has remained exactly the same. So this is something that hasn't really changed between the Mk7 and the Mk7.5 Golf GTI. Specifically, you obviously have your red stitching over here. You have your nice soft touch sort of leather armrest over here. You have your mirror controls and obviously your door unlock and lock buttons. You have this lovely sort of trim that looks like carbon fiber. If you guys look really closely at it, it has a sort of gloss effect. In the previous gen car or the pre-facelift, this specific piece was more of a sort of gloss black, but this exact same design. I believe also that there's a small little stripe over here that sort of lights up like ambient lighting and it turns sort of red, which is a really good feature and makes the car look that much better. Okay, so here in the center console remains the same. We also do have our two cup holders with our electronic parking brake. And what else do we have over here? We have obviously our 7-speed DSG transmission, which is one of the best automatic gearboxes in the market right now. So the Golf GTI is available with keyless start, which is a really convenient feature. And then moving on, we do have this lovely gloss black trim which stretches right across the cabin over here towards the driver's side, which is really a nice touch and gives it a very much of a quality feel. And yes, in the previous car you will see this, the trim around here was sort of a sort of carbon fiber effect, not quite carbon fiber, but that's what they were sort of going for. Back here we do have a bit of storage as well, so a little pocket for your phone. We do have a USB port as well as your aux over here, which you can't quite catch on camera, but they are there. So one of the biggest changes in this car now, especially starting with the Mk7.5 Golf GTI, is the brand new infotainment system from VW. This specific one, you guys have seen a sort of review on it on the loan car that I did have from VW Claremont, the 1-liter TSI Polo, the 2018 model. This is sort of new and coming across right of the ranges. There is a bigger screen, one that sort of leaves out these two toggles over here, and the screen obviously gets a lot bigger. But this screen is amazing nonetheless, and the features in this system is just amazing. I really find the system to be such a easy infotainment system to use, and something you can get used to very, very quickly. So you do have your different options. Obviously you have your radio. The one thing I have explained before is the sort of, as you approach the screen, the options sort of pop up, which is a really, really great feature. Then you obviously have your media. For example, you can connect through Bluetooth. You can also link your phone, obviously, so that you don't have to pick up your phone while you are driving. You can just wirelessly set it up. You do have voice commands, various voice commands that you could possibly use. I've never really tried these out, to be honest, and I believe this is an option on most of VW's cars. I'm not certain of that. Okay, she just said pardon to me. She's not quite sure what I'm saying. But okay, let's just see if we can do something. So set a frequency.
You can say call followed by a contact or select artist at any time.
Okay, so this system clearly doesn't understand my accent, this strong South African Cape Townian accent. But okay, moving on from there, this car does come with these amazing features: Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and I'm again not sure what MirrorLink is. For those of you that do know, please let me know in the comments down below. And yes, these two features, especially Android Auto, which I have tried on the Polo, is really such an amazing feature to use. It just fits in so well, really, and just linking your phone up really makes for such a convenient drive, especially on those long road trips. So moving on, you can check various things about your car, such as your fuel efficiency, your driving data, just your vehicle status, general things like this. The one touch I really do like is that is a Golf GTI on that specific graphic, which is just amazing. Oftentimes manufacturers will just sort of put any random Golf or any random car there on the spot, not specifically going for the car that you are in, really, which is a really, really nice touch. So yes, moving on, there are various hotkeys on the right and the left. The main one being the menu one, which does let you jump. I believe this does look a bit different to the all new Polo, which I believe might have been an update on the Polo. So maybe the one on the Polo is actually a newer version of this system. But however, this system feels pretty much the same to me, and having used this system on a long road trip, I can tell you one thing: this system is really, really one of the best on the market right now. Okay, so guys, I have shown you guys the interior of this car. The interior is just amazing. I mean, just look at this. Look at how lovely this feels. I mean, just sitting in this car, it just looks so amazing. I mean, it's just something else, really. And you can really feel the premiumness of this car. It's something else, really. And for me, the Golf GTI has always been one of the best hot hatches on the market. And personally, if I had a choice for any other hot hatch, I doubt I'd even have thought about another car. I mean, the infotainment system is great. Just the feel in this car is it's electric. And once you get to drive a GTI, that's when you really realize just how good this car really is. But yeah, let's just move on to the rest of the interior. Okay, so moving on to the steering now. The steering remains fairly the same. The one thing you guys will notice is this exact same steering is also available in the brand new Polo GTI, and it's also available in the Up GTI, which is really a good thing because this steering, it just feels so right. Everything about it feels so good. I mean, this sort of steel effect with the GTI logo down over there really makes for such a nice touch, along with these beautiful red stitches which go right across the steering on the inside. So VW, you guys are doing good on taking the specific steering into most of your cars. It's one that works, and everything, just the setup of it is it's just perfect. There's nothing more that needs to be done. In fact, I wouldn't really mind personally if they had this exact same steering on the Golf 8 GTI, which should be coming soon. Okay, so guys, one of the biggest differences on the Mark 7 Golf GTI versus the Mark 7.5 Golf GTI is the fact that now they've sort of leaned towards the digital cockpit. I mean, this is something that Audi has been using for a very, very long time, and it's something that's really good, especially if they were sort of using the same one that Audi is using, knowing these two groups are linked to each other. this is a very good combination. Before, in the Mk7 Golf GTI, you guys did get the normal analog dials, which, I mean, personally, I love those dials. Just the way they look so sporty, and they look so really just amazing. And coming back to the Mk7.5 Golf GTI, what is different now, obviously, is the fact that we do now have the digital cockpit, which obviously is an option, quite an expensive option at that as well. But personally, I would really want it in my car. It just looks really great. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, so now moving on to that digital cockpit, which is the big story of this car. It's really a lovely setup. I personally just love everything about it. So in order for it to start over there, you need to have the car switched on, which you can obviously do in this car by just putting your foot on the brake and obviously just hitting that button over there, which is really damn hot right now. The one thing about Cape Town's heat, it just drives you insane. I know I shouldn't be complaining, there is worse heat in other countries, but yeah, humans complain. So let's move on to this. Okay, so let's start this up. Let's just make sure that's focused. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so when you do start the car up, that lovely sweep, I love the way those dials sweep. That's just so amazing. Oh god, needing to refuel this car. But okay, let me just switch off the aircon. So yes, moving on to these dials, that is really a great feature, and I'm not quite sure how you would actually do this. Okay, there we go. So you guys do actually use those buttons over there. This is something I'm kind of familiar with my GTI as well. So yes, you can toggle with your audio. You have various options like your telephone, which you can see right in front of you, which is really great. The vehicle status as well. The one thing I don't really quite like is the fact that that's just a normal Golf. I wish they just put a Golf GTI there like they did on the infotainment screen. I mean, come on, they could have just done that for us, which would have been really nice. So yeah, oh wow, okay, so you guys do have a lap timer. For those of you guys that are going to track your GTIs, there you go, you have something right in front of you. Driving data such as your range, then we also have various other things like your consumption. There's a lot you can do here really. So I do like the setup over here with the sort of tachometer over here and the water range. Okay, it seems like I have company over here. So yeah, you do have your average kilometers to a liter. You have your range over on that side over there. There are so many options on this digital screen that probably could be explored a little bit more once you do live with this car for a while. So one feature I really like is the fact that when you do switch off the car, you guys will see a small little Golf drive up over there, which is really a nice touch. If only that was a GTI, but that is a really good touch. That's great going VW. Okay guys, so one feature I did notice while I was sort of just maneuvering this car around, because I am in quite a tight space over here, so filming is a bit tough. But the one thing I did notice while maneuvering this car, a really great feature, is you guys would be familiar that in automatics, right, the car generally creeps, unless it's a DCT like a BMW M3, where the car doesn't quite creep. What I mean by creep is that once you let your foot off of the brake pedal, the car sort of starts moving. And there's one feature in this car called auto hold. This one here specifically, when you do press that button, what does happen is when you do let your foot off of that brake, the car doesn't creep. The car sort of just stands there, and you do sort of need to press the throttle to get the car moving. I mean, I think this feature is very welcome, especially if you are driving on a hill or something like that. It's really helpful, because at times you do have situations where automatics tend to creep backwards. This is especially a usual thing in DCTs, in dual clutches, where they are sort of semi-automatics, where they are sort of half manuals there. They do tend to creep backwards, which is a great feature, but especially in a tight spot like this, I don't really like the feature. And the one thing that I do like though is the fact that VW, they gave us a button where you can actually switch that off. maneuvering around in a very tight space like this one, for example, becomes extremely hard when the car doesn't want to creep. You don't want to overpress the throttle and then just let the car shoot into another car. So this is a great going VW. I like the fact that they've actually made the feature something that you can switch on and off. So yeah, coming to that, that's just something I actually discovered, and it is a really great feature. Okay guys, so now we are in the Mk7 Golf GTI, the pre-facelift. I did have some company over here, so we are going to be a bit quick. But yeah, okay, so let's move on to the Mk7. The Mk7 is not that much different really. I mean, the steering remained the same. Much of the inside has remained the same. Really, the trim is what's changed as well, along with the infotainment system and obviously your speedometer and your tachometer, which has obviously now changed to that digital format over there in the Mk7.5. So let's take a look down at that now. Okay, so as you guys can see, not much has really changed. What you can really see that has changed, okay, I can't quite close that because I do have my camera on charging over there, is obviously, okay, you do still have your DSG. The same storage space is still there with the USB socket over there, and obviously your aux as well. This is obviously closable like that. As you can see, this trim is more of a sort of carbon fiber effect, not quite really. But yeah, this sort of effect does go across the car entirely right over here. And you can sort of see it here next to the speedometer as well. So not much has really changed. The main thing that really has changed is obviously the infotainment system. As you can see, it does still have that feature of where I come towards it and the options pop up. But this system is the older system. It's not really a bad system. It's fairly the same really. It is a touchscreen still. And it's quite easy to navigate. The touchscreen does feel a bit old to a certain degree as well. But you have all your hotkeys over here. You can jump straight to your menu to your car. You can see the same, pretty much the same data that you can actually see on the 7.5. That's not that much different. The only difference really is that the screen was a lot smaller. This to me does look like a sort of 4 or 5 inch screen, whereas in the 7.5 over there we do have maybe like a 7 inch or a 9 inch screen. So not much has really changed there. Really, it's this part that's changed mostly. And this system is pretty much the same. It just feels like that one is more of a sort of update if you really look at it. And it's a very welcome update on the 7.5. I mean, this is not something you can, that's impossible to live with. I mean, it's perfectly good. It's a really good system. And I'm finding it quite easy to actually use. Being a VW driver, it's actually very familiar and you won't find yourself really lost on the car. A lot of the car remains the same really on the 7.5. The system doesn't really change, and yeah, not much really here does actually change. The one thing that has really changed though is the speedometer. Okay, so just looking at the cabin as a whole, there is not much difference. As you guys can see, a person who's not really a car person might not even notice the differences here. The one thing I did forget to mention is that the perforated seats weren't really a thing on the Mk7. As you can see, this is just sort of full leather, which is not really a bad thing, which is quite a comfortable seat. But the perforated leather really is really a welcome feature. I believe that's what they call ventilated leather. I'm not quite sure what that's called. But yeah, moving on, the steering does remain fairly the same with the similar size pedals and obviously the exact same sort of design. Nothing much has changed really between the two. What has changed, however, is that over there. So let's just make the brightness a bit more there. So what you guys can see is that the speedometer previously was a sort of analog dial. When you do start the car up though, you do get that lovely sweep as well. So that is one thing that hasn't quite changed. You still have that same sweeping function. Okay, so you do still have your sort of infotainment sort of controls. You can see things like your average consumption. You can browse through your menu. So a lot of the sort of underlying features have remained the same in the infotainment as well. As you can see, you guys still have your lap timer over there, your driving data, your audio, your telephone, the vehicle status. There's a lot you can still do here. So between the two cars, there's not that much of a difference really. A lot of the features really remain the same. It's only the only thing that really does actually change is the fact that the way that you do these things. Okay, so guys, let's just open up the panoramic roofs. These cars look amazing when you have those roofs open. Okay, so all you gotta do is you just gotta press that button over there, and there you have it. Ooh, this is quite hard to film. Just look at that, my goodness, does that look glorious. Okay, so guys, let's take off the panoramic roof on this car. It's pretty amazing to look at these cars with the roof off. So, okay, we actually need to have the car started for that. Let's just start her up. Sounds pretty good. Wow, that sounds pretty good on startup. So, okay, let's just pull the roof back and we'll take a look at that from the outside. Let's have a look at both of these cars with the roof off. My goodness, do they look good. Look at that. Okay, so guys, now we are going to move to the boot space of the GTI. I mean, this is a hatchback, and you would expect the hatchback to have a very small boot, but in the case of the GTI, that's not so true. The GTI's boot is very significantly big. It hasn't changed much really from the previous gen car. It is quite large, as you guys can see. It's quite deep and quite high as well, which means this is an easy car to live with daily. So let's just move to the Mk7 Golf GTI over here and let's check out that boot. Also opened in the same way by pulling this badge up. Okay, so as you guys can see, this boot is exactly the same size. So like I did explain, when it comes to the structure of the car, not much has changed. In fact, nothing has changed. The car, the chassis, just the body, everything has remained the same between these two cars. Nothing much has really changed, and the only changes are small things like tail lights, front lights, the wheels obviously, small little things like that. Again, it is just a facelift. It's not exactly an all new car. It is just a sort of mid-generation facelift, and it's a welcome facelift. There's no denying that. It's a very, very great decision by VW to go ahead with that, and I felt like it was really a good thing to do. But when it comes back to the boot space, again, the floor of these boots is adjustable, so you are able to sort of take it one step down like that. Okay, I'm not quite sure if I'm doing this right or if there's just something there. Okay, there's something over there. Quite sure what that was, but again, just take a look at that. That is quite a deep boot. If you guys look at that really carefully, you will see that the floor sort of raises at the back, but then has been lowered sort of like about 2 steps or about 2 inches or so, which really, again, more boot space is always a welcome feature on every car, and I like that you can adjust these things. Even in my specific GTI, it's adjustable, and that's a great feature. And when it comes to these cars, GTIs are very practical cars. They are great cars to live with. They're not just hot. That's one thing a lot of other manufacturers do sort of fail on. Something VW does very good is the fact that they managed to make the Golf GTI both practical, and they managed to make it a sporty car. Something that when people look at you driving in this car, my god, do heads turn. Guys, there you have it. That is the comparison between the Mk7 Golf GTI and the Mk7.5 facelift. Again, there's not that much difference between the car. Both of these cars are beautiful. They are both gorgeous, absolutely beautiful cars, and I would gladly have any one of these two. And again, let me know guys, what do you think? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer that one, or do you prefer that one? Which one would you guys rather have? And again, they are both amazing cars, so we will be driving both of these cars very soon, me specifically, and man, am I excited. I love every opportunity I can to get into a GTI. I would never say no to that opportunity. These cars mean the world to me. I have loved these cars since I was 16, and I probably would have loved them way before that. But the GTI is a very, very great car, and there's no denying it just gets better and better generation by generation. This car does not fail to impress. And yes, that was the comparison between the Mk7 and the Mk7.5 Golf GTI. So let me know, guys, what do you think? Do you like either one of these two, or do you like them both? Which one is your preference? So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and be tuned for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.